Thousands gathered in the Georgian capital of Tbilisi on Friday to mark 365 days of non-stop protests against the government's decision to halt talks on joining the European Union. According to Associated Press, carrying drums, whistles, placards and flags, demonstrators congregated close to Rustaveli Avenue, the city's central thoroughfare. The daily protests began on November 28, 2024, when Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze announced the country was halting talks on joining the European Union. Thousands of protesters poured into the streets following Kobakidze's speech, rallying outside the parliament building in Tbilisi and staging demonstrations in other cities. While the size of the rallies has since fallen, demonstrators have continued to gather each day and show no signs of stopping. Among those attending the protest march was the leader of Federalists Party, Tamara Chergaliashvili, who said the anniversary marked another year of fighting for the liberation from Russian regime. Georgia's ruling Georgian Dream Party has tried to curb the movement by tightening rules on public assemblies, as well as passing a wave of laws targeting rights groups, non-governmental organizations, and independent media. Critics say some have been modeled on legislation passed in Russia, where President Vladimir Putin has harshly stifled dissent. Wearing face masks, blocking roads or erecting temporary structures now carries up to 15 days of administrative detention for protest participants and 20 days for organizers. First-time offenders previously faced a fine of 500 Georgian lari. That amount has now been multiplied by 10, to a fine of 5,000 Georgian lari. A second offense brings criminal charges. Hundreds have been detained under the new law. Georgian Dream has petitioned the Constitutional Court to ban the country's three main opposition groups, the United National Movement, Akali/Coalition for Change and Lelo.
It has been 1 year since Georgian government, the Georgian regime has given up Georgia's independence. One might ask, what does independence have to do with the European integration? But leaving Georgia alone face to face to Russia means inevitable loss of Georgian sovereignty. Therefore, this is a 1 year anniversary of another fight for Georgia's liberation from Russian regime. And this is a demonstration that for the last year, protest has lost nothing despite repressive politics of the regime.
Defending and fighting for our rights, and like fundamental rights, and like historical, fundamental, all rights, which is one of the most important now. If we don't fight for it now, then it will be much harder to get that.
Daily protests continued in Georgia since November 28, 2024, when Prime Minister Irakli Kobakidze announced the country was halting talks on joining the European Union. According to Associated Press, the move triggered waves of demonstrations that have been met with mass arrests, police violence and a widening crackdown on dissent. Rallies large and small have continued despite a multi-pronged effort by the government to curb the movement through laws targeting protesters, rights groups, non-governmental organizations, and independent media. Critics say some have been modeled on legislation passed in Russia, where President Vladimir Putin has harshly stifled dissent. In recent months, the ruling Georgian Dream Party fast-tracked amendments tightening rules on public assemblies. Masking faces, blocking roads, or erecting temporary structures now carries up to 15 days of administrative detention for participants and 20 days for organizers. A second offense brings criminal charges. First-time offenders previously faced a 5,000 GL fine, raised from 500 GL last year. Hundreds have been detained under the new law. Among them is Riziko Kobakids, a mother of 9 and researcher at the Soviet Past Research Laboratory, who has been protesting daily outside parliament. For my children and grandchildren, I don't want a country where they cannot speak openly, where they will be treated unjustly and won't find justice, she told AP. Kobakids was arrested twice in November for blocking a street during protests and received sentences of 1 and 4 days behind bars. Authorities have also intensified pressure on opposition parties. Georgian Dream has petitioned the Constitutional Court to ban the country's 3 main opposition groups: the United National Movement, Akali/Coalition for Change, and Lelo. Several opposition leaders are jailed, in exile, or facing criminal charges, which opponents say are politically motivated.
მანამდეც იყო პროტესტი, მაგრამ ერთი წლის წინ უკვე კაფიოდ და პირდაპირ იქამდე ცოტათი მაინც მალავდნენ და მე უკვე აღარც იმის საჭიროებაც კი აღარ დადგა, რომ რაღაცა შეფარვით ეთქვათ რამე. პირდაპირ გითხრას ყველაფერი, რომ ჩვენი კურსი იცვლება, უხვევენ კონსტიტუციიდან და გვართმევენ იმ აწმყოს და მომავალს, რომლისთვისაც ჩვენი წინაპრები იბრძოდნენ და რომელიც გვეამაყ.
ჩემი შვილებისთვის არ მინდა ისეთი ქვეყანა, სადაც ისინი ხმას ვერ ამოიღებენ, სადაც მათ უსამართლოდ მოიქცევიან და სამართალს ვერ იპოვიან, სადაც ისინი ვერ იშრომებენ იმ კუთხით, რაც თვითონ უნდათ და სახელმწიფო დაუწესებს, თქვა და ეს შეიძლება, ეს არ შეიძლება.